Welcome everyone to Satsang with Tara by Thea. This is a new experimental content series that I'm going to play with and see if it leads to a higher production of this series in the future. But for now, I'm wanting to just dip my toes in and see how this lands both in myself and also in the collective, and see if it sort of like starts to build momentum. So my name is Thea Stone, and I am a tarot reader and intuitive counselor, guiding spiritual practitioners on the path of healing, purpose, and awakening. For those who don't know, a satsang is defined as being in the company of truth, fellowship of truth, wholesome and uplifting company, especially on the spiritual path, fellowship with other human beings with similar spiritual aspirations, as well as fellowship with God and meditation. Satsang often takes the form of a gathering of some kind for spiritual discourse and to deepen our experience of our true nature. So this is the kind of format I wish to explore in this series. And I want to give a little introduction, and then we'll get into the sort of format that I think I'm going to start working with. So get yourself comfortable and cozy, and let's begin. So recently I had a very deep spiritual experience after a discourse of Muji, and this is my third time returning to Muji's teachings over my life. And I don't want to say too much about the experience, because these are things that can only be felt and observed when you're in the middle of it. It's not something you can really talk too much about. But I can say that it's the kind of level of profundity that I probably can count on both my hands that I've had in my lifetime. And it's like a deepening of what is unfolding within my spiritual practice. And this is not the first time one of Muji's teachings has actually led me to such a profound experience, which is why I think I keep returning to his work over the years. At the same time, in the same week, really, that I had this profound experience, it's come to my attention after conversations with some close friends and other sort of spiritual fellows, you could say, that a nodal reversal is a time to uncover what you're here to do. And my nodal reversal started in January 2025, and it will last about 18 months. And I'm choosing to see it as an inner spiritual pilgrimage, an opportunity to deepen my spiritual practice, and also discover what I want to do next. And I think Neptune in Aries is also assisting me in this as well. Lately, I have been struggling with the idea of expanding my offerings. You may have heard me talk about from time to time that I'm creating a membership, and I've gone through various iterations of this, and different ways to describe it, different focuses, different niches, but they've not quite hit the target. It's like I get these flashes of inspiration, I play with it, and then something just leaves me dissatisfied, and it doesn't feel quite right. So I know I need this nodal reversal pilgrimage to solidify what I'm trying to do. Since the spiritual experience, I feel that I may be drawn into the kind of work that I hope to explore in this satsang series. This will be a trial to test out how it feels, how aligned it is, whether it develops into something else, whether it leads me to another idea that's different. I don't know, but I felt I've been feeling this pull, this call to do something a little deeper with my channeling and tarot work, something that maybe offers something that I'm not seeing as much of, or is a combination of various facets that I've been exposed to or explored in my life. But mostly I've wanted to go deeper in a sense of how I can be of service and assist others. So this is something that's been brewing for a little while. And so I think that this is just like a trial to test the waters and see what happens. If you find that you actually like this video, then please actually let me know in the comments, because although I feel that this is something that needs to come from within, a calling from within to a large degree, it does help to have some feedback to see if it's actually providing a service to others. And you know, if you have suggestions, I'll be willing to contemplate them. So let me know if you like this work. But yeah, how this is going to differ from my other work is the Tarot by Thea podcast, and I guess some of the quick readings and stuff like that have been focused mostly on external influences that we can work with, such as the astrological and collective energies. But these satsangs are going to be focused on the internal influences of the human experience in discovering your true nature. It also allows me to draw on my many years of exposure to Buddhism. Although I'm not religious, I've been brought up with Buddhism. And so I've been exposed to a lot of the concepts. I've done a lot of reading. I've listened to a lot of Dharma talks and satsangs and other discourses over the years. So the mind has been stretched in this area. And so this is something I can weave in. It also sort of takes me back into, because these are practices that take me back into my earliest years, and so it allows me to, in a way, draw on the totality of my life experience instead of just the sort of psychic practices that I've been developing in recent years. Even though I've had, you know, these abilities for a long time, I haven't necessarily put them into service for others. So I feel like this is the kind of thing that I'm wanting to explore. And the format I'm gonna try out is to have some kind of introduction and talk about a topic of reflection. And then we're going to do some tarot and channeling to sort of see what insights or guidance the divine has on the particular topic that comes up. Maybe something else will come through. But it's an opportunity for us to inquire at the source of things and gain insight on that. And then I want to close with what I'd like to call a little moment of Zen. And this could be a little bit of toning or sound healing, a short meditational journey, or something to contemplate. So that's what I'm going to try out. So today's topic is something that's actually been alive for me recently, and it's about grief. So although I like to draw on personal experiences, I don't want to get too involved in my personal story. But the reason why it's been alive for me has been that I've recently had to release somebody that was dear to me. And also at the time of recording, my cat has been absent for 3 days now, which is very unlike him. And so I'm starting to come to the realization and acceptance that maybe he's not coming back. So I'm having to let go in some profound ways at the moment. And those are just two examples. The recent eclipse season has brought other other issues that have brought certain layers of grief up, but those are two strong ones that have been present for me. And it's given me a lot to reflect on in terms of the illusions of the mind and attachment and identification as well. And I'll just briefly touch on a few things I've noticed, although I think there were lots of nuanced layers that with deeper contemplation, deeper reflection, deeper observation, which you can do in your own practice, start to get more finer, nuanced awareness of different things. But some of the sort of highlights of what I noticed in the last few weeks going through this grieving period has been so first of all, I noticed like a sense of denial coming up and a sort of dismissive avoidance coming up to reduce the hurt, looking at, oh, it's a good thing because of this, actually, these reasons and all of that. And although it's good to see the silver lining, it's all about where does that come from? Is it coming from a unwillingness to feel the pain, so it's an avoidance? Or is it coming from acceptance of the situation, which is a different stage of grief, right? So there was definitely at the beginning a wanting to deny and also a desire to move on quick, almost too quickly. Almost like, let's just skip over this whole grief thing and just move on. And so these were forms of avoidance in the mind. And it's a way of like bypassing the pain, because actually being in the pain, observing the pain, how we handle the pain, how attached we are to the pain, how much do we identify with the person having the pain, all of these factors can influence how much we can actually be with it. And how practiced you are with that can determine the experience that's had. So after that, I started going into a phase of trying to convince myself of hidden narratives that had no evidence of reality, but because it felt good. And even if it turns out that these projections or ideas of what might be going on behind the surface, assuming there's even anything going on behind the surface that hasn't been revealed, it's almost like, even if that turns out to be true in the future, the illusion was that I was holding on to totally made up ideas that had no evidence in the now. And I was attaching to it because that felt good. And so there was this, it was almost like trying to build a comfort blanket around you, so that like some cotton wool wrapping around you so that you don't have to feel the pain. And there's nothing wrong with self-care. There's nothing wrong with understanding your needs in a situation and tending to them. But there's another, when you build another illusion, you just let go of one illusion of, in this case, it was an illusion around, well, two different things, the illusion around how I thought somebody else felt about me, an illusion around, I thought I was going to wake up and my cat was going to be there. Or not even contemplating the fact that one day he wouldn't be there. And then there was also other illusions with my cat. So when I noticed he wasn't around and I started to get concerned, of the mind wanted to control the situation. So it wanted to assume that I'd actually done something wrong, because then I could correct it. So it was almost like looking in places to see if I'd accidentally locked my cat away in a cupboard or in a room that had the door closed, or in the garage or whatever. So it was almost like the mind wanted like to do something, even if it meant taking some kind of blame, because it meant it could have some kind of control. Because then it's like, well, even though I did something that unfortunately was detrimental to my cat, at least I could solve the situation rather than being in the unknown. I didn't want to sit in the unknown. So so these were two interesting things, because one was grieving because of receiving a truth that was difficult, and the other one was an unknown, and knowing that I may have to grieve not knowing the outcome. So these are two different things, but grief's involved, right? So this was an interesting play. Then in terms of the person that I released, there were, there are positive and negative things that came up. One of them was actually starting to settle into this idea of allowing people to have their journey, allowing people and being grateful for what you do have, what's real, what's tangible in the connection. Not going too deep into what is real here. But in terms of what can be confirmed, what has evidence, and not something that's made up in the mind that is completely fabricated and can be based on wishful thinking and faulty assumptions and all of these things. So actually working with it just a little bit to actually start getting into that accepting space. So that's a phase. And then looking at, once coming into more of a phase of acceptance, looking at where did I get disturbed? Where was triggers still coming up? What things were actually reminding me of the situation and sort of almost sending me back a little bit. And then the play of, okay, so there are still things that are the triggering things to come up that are difficult emotions, memories, whatever the case may be. But then the natural inclination to want to avoid it, or the aversion of it, and so it's gone from something that I wanted very deeply and was attached to something that I was being adverse to, because it reminded me of pain because of the grieving process. So there's these waves of starting to settle in, starting to accept, starting to feel like you're moving on, and then a wave will come through, and that could be triggered from a memory, a photo, an association, a phrase that comes to mind that person might use, or in the case of my cat, whenever I see a cat toy lying around, or the fact I had to like wash up his bowl and throw away the cat food that he hasn't eaten for 2 days. So every time I saw that bowl with the cat food in it, I was getting triggered. And so it's once you are starting to come out of the deepness of it a bit, and you're starting to have those moments of acceptance and starting to settle into it, you could start to see where the triggering is coming in. Because when it first happens, it's almost like tidal wave. There's a lot to process and sift through there. Once you start to come out of it a bit, then it's possible to start seeing, where am I getting hooked in again? And so that was starting to be noticed, like, okay. But what I noticed as well is like the answer to that is a total avoidance. You can't totally avoid some things. You can try. And so it's like, the way I've learned to do it is like practicing like short bursts of exposure to acclimatize myself, witness when the either aversion or attachment starts coming back in, and then going, okay, so can we just be with this for a little bit and then put it aside? And so there's a practice there, because if you just try to avoid it, then it's not, you're not getting result. You're not getting any more peace of mind than if you were attached to it. So there's a practice there that has started to come through, and then noticing when it's like, okay, that's the limit. And then after looking at the sort of micro triggers and where it starts to get sticky, the next stage was starting to work with non-identification. And this came through because of this profound experience that I just had in this last week, where a lot of it was there was the capacity to disidentify, to detach, was greater for a period. And in that experience, it showed me how I could witness myself grieving without attaching to the person who was grieving. And so I had an experience just a few days ago, as I was starting to realize that my cat may not be returning, where I was lying in my bed and I could notice the surge of emotion like coming from my heart, and it's sort of expanding into my throat and then crying. But I was observing myself crying. I wasn't the person crying. There was a detachment. And it really showed me that even though the really difficult emotions, grief being one of them, can be really, it's like the emotions so heated, and so it's like they're very overwhelming. They take over, they take up a lot of emotional space in us. It's very easy to identify with that. You know, it's easier to just register and observe a fleeting thought that, you know, you're kind of neutral to. You can go, oh, yeah, I see that thought, and it's gone. Okay. Oh yeah, I just noticed a little twinge there of nervousness, or a little twinge of uncertainty or something like that. But actually, but it faded. Those little subtle things are just enough that you can catch your attention, but not so much that they don't overwhelm you. Those are quite good ones to start with. But when you find a surge of deep emotion coming up, it takes a lot of effort to actually sit with that. Um, but what it does provide you with is a profound opportunity to really practice detachment, because grief, um, like many strong emotions, gives us various different ways in which it impacts the the body, the emotional, uh, uh, the sense of the emotions, um, the ideas and thoughts that can come up, the memories of the past and the future. There are lots of things that get like woven in to grief. And so it's actually an opportunity to be able to observe a rich landscape of sensations, but be able to detach. If you can detach from it, it's like going in the deep end for sure. Um, but if you can give yourself even a few moments, like when I gave myself I had those moments, or there were those moments. This is where language gets tricky, where I could, there was crying. The person was crying, but there was awareness of the crying, and the awareness is not the person crying. So there's something else. And so there was a receding, a repositioning of the sense of self, observing the person crying. And so I think one of the messages I want to add in my reflections to this is, when we have strong, complex emotions, it's a deep opportunity to, even if it's just for a minute or 30 seconds or something like that, to notice a lot of things coming up, but just be the awareness. And I think if you can train in those moments, it makes the less heated moments of life easier to also detach. And when I say detach, this is something that I'm probably going to do another episode on. I don't mean a coldness, an avoidance, a rejection of reality, or assuming that I'm the only entity that matters and everything else is just a mirage. I'm not talking about that. But it is a readjustment of understanding your true nature. This repositioning. Because it's so easy to get attached to the body. And the end run grief is, after all, coming out of deep attachment. We are grieving the loss of something. It is an expression when we have an aversion to losing something, when we are deeply attached to it. If you're not attached to it, then it's much easier to observe the passing of it. If you're not attached to that car that's outside, you could watch it go by and it has no impact on you. But if that car has got like somebody you care about and you know they're leaving and they're coming back, deeply attached. So grief is an opportunity in the processing of grief. And not the bypassing, but the processing. There is a natural unfoldment of it. But there's a way to do it that doesn't cause so much suffering. So there's a couple of references here I want to include at this point. So I sometimes watch content from, it's called the Shaolin Warrior Monk, and I haven't actually mastered how to properly pronounce his name yet, but he has I'll put it in the description, but he has a method called RAIN. And I've been working with the first 3 steps of this, but the last one is always the one that's needed the most work. So this is a process of recognizing when you have an emotion, say, coming up, acknowledging or accepting that it's there, investigating it. Why did it come? What triggered it? All of these things. And then non-identification. So I could probably, it's like recognize, yes, I'm quite good at recognizing things, and it's something I'm developing much more over my life. Acknowledging, accepting things. There are times where that gets tricky, but it comes eventually. Investigation, yes, I'm always one of those people that has like to look into why did I react that way. So the investigation part is, fairly well trained. But the non-identification, that's where I've slipped. And I actually realized that the last time I was really with Ruji's work, it's like that practice slipped out of my mental routine, you might say. So I went back into identification, and his work faded, I guess, for a bit, for one reason or another. And then I came back to it just to the point where I was ready to work on that again. But anyway, it's like this is where most of us struggle, because it's so easy to get caught up in the senses of the body, even the sense of where we are in space, where this body is in space, our sense of where this body is placed in time. There's all kinds of sensory things that we take to be ourselves. And so this is where the work comes, because to quote Haruki Murakami, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. By detaching, we release suffering and just observe the pain. Suffering is like an extra layer. It's like you feel an ache in your knee. That is the pain. But then you go, oh, I've always got this pain in my knee. I'm never going to be able to do all the things I need to do. It's always getting in my way. I'm always having this issue. It's never going to get better. So projections are from the past, projections to the future, pulling history from the past, making assumptions based on that history, limiting oneself mentally, physically, perhaps, spiritually, emotionally. That's suffering. So, as Miji would say, who is the one who is grieving? And who is observing the person who is grieving? So at this point, I think it's going to be a good time to dive into the tarot, and I've also got my crystal ball here. I'm going to use the Lover's Path deck because I know there's no issues with YouTube on that. And let's just see what source, the divine, the universe, God, the great spirit, however you would describe it, wants to add to this discourse today using the cards. At the root card, we have the Queen of Cups, and the Queen of Cups is like the, I guess, the archetype that has the most feeling, that feels the most feeling, and can be associated with sadness or grief, which is interesting. So I thought it was an interesting confirmation there. So let's just see. So, the Divine Spirit, what additional message do you have for this Sangha discourse today on grief? So we have the Princess of Staves. So this is the Page of Wands. The Page of Wands is like at the beginning of a spiritual initiation or pilgrimage for that matter. Risking going on an adventure into the unknown. A spiritual initiate as well is what I'm getting. So grief can be the practice of working with grief in this way in terms of detachment can be a great instigator for this practice is what I'm getting. Let's see what else comes through. And so we get the High Priestess. So this is called wisdom in this card. And also what I'm getting, if you look at this, so the man here is observing the woman. I'm feeling like this is important. It's observing the one having the experience. I'm hearing as a wisdom to the body. So like these experiences that come up to be witnessed, there is like there's a there's a wisdom in its play, in its unfoldment. It has something to teach us and to show us. Um, and that there's something to be learned from the observation of it, even if all it is learning your true nature. And also learning about, I'm getting reminded of the impulses. So when there's a feeling, there can be an attached impulse to do something. So for example, I'm being reminded of, I had this reflection this week, and I think I'll go into it now. If you're observing your bodily state, how you feel in your body, and then a notification goes off on your phone, if you're being observant, you're going to notice something in your body. You might suddenly get a little tightening or a little emotional surge, an impulse to go check the phone. There can also be almost like a sense of alertness, because it's like almost like the response of like hearing something that could be needing to be kept an eye on, almost like the sort of like um awareness response, in the sense of like, if you're around animals, like say if you've ever kept chickens or birds, for example, and a cat comes around, suddenly they get, what's going on? There is an alert response. And so there could be that feeling in the body, and there's a sensation around that. It's actually quite a good practice. Next time you're just sitting quietly and your phone goes off, just stay put and see what senses come up in the body and how that's attached to an impulse to act, to grab the phone. It's very strong because it's conditioned response. So this could be quite a very sort of practical everyday thing you can do to look at this. But taking it in this example with grief, it's obviously something deeper, and it can come in waves, and it can feel like sometimes it seems to come out of nowhere, and other times it seems to come from a trigger. And so there is a wisdom in looking at, okay, where did this really come from? What really instigated it? How does it actually feel? What sensations are coming? And what sensations are coming that I feel identified with? Like, oh, my stomach is tightening. Or is it just there is a sensation of the stomach tightening? Um, one's much more pervasive and overwhelming because you're projecting your awareness into it. The other is just a place of observation. So there is a wisdom in doing this practice. And it's okay if you get distracted. It's okay if you can only do it for a short period of time. It's okay if the mind gets tired and you just have to pick it up another time. That's why it's practice. But in being able to observe it, we can start to sort of decouple the sensation with the impulse to act. Three just came out, and I'm just going to see if they feel relevant. So we got the Six of Staves. So this can be about, sometimes this could show up, well, this can be about victory and success. This can be about ego as well. This can be about the drive. Um, again, that impulse. I think it's interesting that comes after the wisdom, and particularly the wisdom of the body and the wisdom of observing the body. It's almost like the ego can be quick to fire off and get carried away. Um, so so this is why it's almost like, again, talking about like getting some space between the sensation, the observation, and the actual like impulse and action, the identification, the attachment as well. Then we've got the Queen of Arrows. So this is Queen of Swords. So this is very much about detachment. You couldn't get a more perfect card about detachment here. So again, so it's like detaching from the ego. And then I've just see that we got the Hierophant. Um, so this is like the spiritual key to the divine, effectively. So it's like so this yeah. Okay, so this feels just like very much like a confirmation of what we've just been discussing. Um, so I would sum it up as this. It is a spiritual initiation practice journey to use the wisdom of observation, particularly of the body, but of all sensory things, to observe where ego comes in and attaches, or is averse, but particularly identifies with what is witnessed. And in the observation of what is witnessed, you can practice detachment, disidentification, which is going to be key on your spiritual journey and path to awakening. Wow. I feel like I was getting, as I was drawing it, I just wanted to pull 5 cards. It didn't feel like it wanted to be a 10-card spread. So that's a really powerful confirmation. The other thing I would like to do, I just want to, that feels so clear. I don't feel like there's anything else coming through just yet, but maybe something will come through in a bit. In the Healing Heart Oracle, there is a card called Grieving Heart. And the message is open doors to something new. Now, this is number 13, which in the traditional tarot is the death card, which is rebirth, death, and transformation. So letting go and change, embracing change and becoming something new. So open doors to something new. Very interesting. But I thought I might just have a look and read the entry for that. Oh, and look, I came straight to it. The Grieving Heart. I'll read it for you. Grieving heart, open doors to something new. Dear grieving heart, I know you feel disoriented and confused. Losing those we love and are close to is always difficult, and you may be experiencing fear, hurt, and apprehension about the future. Your sense of self may have diminished as you have had thoughts such as, I don't know who I am, and I no longer know what I love, what I care about, or what makes me sing. Now, that's very interesting. Yes, because sometimes when we lose someone significantly, say if they pass, or someone who was a significant part of our life suddenly isn't anymore, we can lose our sense of self because it was almost like we were so interweaved, particularly if it was either a very close relationship or a codependent relationship. There was a lot of attachment involved. Then it can be almost like you lose your identity. But in some ways, that could be utilized on the spiritual path, because maybe don't be too quick to identify. Maybe something new's going to unfold. Maybe you're going to take on new roles. Maybe you're going to try things you haven't done before, or get to know different kinds of people, or things can change and things can unfold. But what this has reminded me of is there's actually a profound opportunity when you have the grief of losing something that literally rocks your identity, because you actually have an opportunity to just drop it for a while and actually maybe even not pick it up so much. That doesn't mean that there isn't gonna be life unfolding, but actually in those moments where something sort of pulls the rug from under us so much that we don't even know who we are anymore, gives us an opportunity to actually completely work from a place of non-identification and detachment. But when we're attached to needing an identity and a sense of self and a person, it can be very disorientating, very ungrounding, very scary, because it feels like a death. And suddenly, it's like you've got no point of reference anymore for yourself, sense of self. But this can actually be a profound spiritual opportunity now that I think about it. You might feel numb or anxious and not want to participate in everyday life. Dear heart, it is important that you give yourself time to mourn your loss and heal. You also must gain the wisdom that this is difficult experience. I'll start over again. You must all you maybe this is a hard one. You also must gain the wisdom that this difficult experience has brought you. Embracing the opportunity to become more independent, shrewd, and clear can feel uncomfortable, but it can offer you incredible growth and self-confidence. Take some time to reflect on what you have truly lost. Is it love, friendship, understanding, help, or care? Reflect on how this loss can open doors to something new. And there's a heart healing exercise that they put through. I'll just read that in case it's useful. Record on paper everything you gained from what you went through with a particular person, animal, job, or experience. What were the truly inspiring aspects that made your soul shine? Acknowledge those. Record what you feel you lost by having this person, animal, job, or experiencing leave your life. It could be anything from no longer having free time for yourself to losing your sense of self or giving too much of yourself away. Be super honest with yourself. Complete the healing by writing down what is possible for you to explore in your life without this person, pet, job, or experience that could help you heal, revitalize, and expand. And now I want to move on to a moment of Zen. So I want this to be a shared experience between all those who watch this video, and it's timeless. So there's like a collective space where we're all in a sangha together, participating in the satsang. And I'm going to lead you through a short guided meditation. I'm going to lead you in, and then I'm going to sort of leave a space of silence for you to sit in it, and then I will lead you out. And both the lead in and the beginning of the lead out will start with the sound of my singing bowl, so that you know we're starting to wrap up. But once we're in the middle of the meditation, you can keep your eyes closed whilst when you hear the gong, so to speak, to start coming back, because I'll guide you back as well. So right now, get yourself comfortable. You will hear this sound again when it's time to start bringing you back. So close your eyes, get a deep breath. Focus your attention on your crown, on the top of your head. And if there's any tension, just relax. Now bring your awareness down to your forehead and just soften there. And bring your awareness to your eyes and relax the eyes and the eye sockets. And then bring your awareness to your jaw. Relax the jaw. And relax the tongue and the mouth, soft palate, the roof of the mouth. Relax the neck and the shoulders. Scan down the body, relaxing any tension in the belly, the arms, and the legs. Just turn your awareness to the activity of the mind. Whatever thoughts or feelings are arising, just be aware of it. Any body sensations, any sense of the past or the future, anything you feel like needs to be done, although nothing needs to be done. Just be aware of it. Then imagine for a moment that your awareness could take a step back from your mind. All the activity of the mind, the thoughts of the past and the future, the things you feel you should do, the body sensations, even the sense of personhood is now seen on a movie screen of your life. You are not a part of the screen. You are just pure awareness observing the screen. Watch as every sensation, emotion, pain, sense of space or time, a thought, see them all move like traffic, coming and going on the screen. Notice how even your body, your sense of personhood, is also contained on that screen. Give yourself a break from identifying with the person, with the body, and just observe. Notice how you can even be aware of awareness itself. Just be and observe. Now, maintaining this position, allow on the screen of your life to form an awareness of the room that will be seen when the eyes are open again. On the screen, let the body wiggle its fingers and toes and observe the sensation. And when it feels ready, let the body take a deep breath and open its eyes. Abide in this.